This is the story about the Awar kingdom, how they were being oppressed by the Benin kingdom. Their women raped, their tributes and farm produce taken, until the god of Ogun, the god of war, raised a farmer as a soldier, Ijapa, who fought for them. In the heart of Yoruba land, the ancient kingdom of Awar stood as a beacon of culture and prosperity for centuries. It thrived under the leadership of the Olowo. Its king, his cabinet members would often greet him, Kábíyèsí o. However, the neighboring kingdom of Benin, led by the formidable king Ozuolua, coveted Awar's wealth and strategic position. King Ozuolua, upon encountering the Awar people, was struck by their humility and submission. He remarked, "The Awar people are so humble and submissive. They deserve to be called Awar or Ogo, meaning respect." Seizing upon this perceived weakness, King Ozuolua launched a series of raids against the Awar. He pillaged their harvests, desecrated sacred sites, and demanded exorbitant tributes to be paid to him. The Awar people, bound by tradition and honor, endured this hardship in silence, hoping for divine intervention. The once thriving market of Awar now stood desolate and empty, with traders too fearful to conduct business. The vibrant festival that once celebrated the kingdom's rich culture were now mere memories, overshadowed by the looming threat of Benin's aggression. In the villages, family huddled together, sharing mega meals. Their eyes were filled with uncertainty about the future. The elders convened in secret, discussing strategies to protect their people and their farm produce. But the overwhelming power of Benin seemed insurmountable. The sacred grove of the Orisha, once a place of joy and communal worship, had become a site of mourning. The Awar people gathered there, offering prayers and sacrifices, beseeching the gods for deliverance from the relentless oppression. Despite their resilience, the Awar kingdom was on a blink of collapse, in spirit crushed under the weight of Benin's tyranny. The people wondered if they would ever see the day when their land would be free from the shadow of their oppressors. But little did they know that the wind of change were beginning to stir, and a hero was destined to rise from amongst them. From a deeper understanding of this story, let's delve in. As the dark clouds of oppression hung heavily over Awar, the gods watched from the heavens, their hearts heavy with compassion for the suffering of the kingdom. It was in the darkest hour that the divine forces, ever vigilant, chose to intervene. The elders, though weary and broken, continued to gather in sacred groves of the Orisha, hoping for a miracle. The grove, once a lively place of worship, had become a silent sanctuary of desperation. The scent of burning incense filled the air as the elders offered their final prayers. They sang hymns of ancient power, calling on the gods of war to remember their covenant with the people of Owo. Among the gathered elders was High Priestess Olamide, whose spirit had long been attuned to the will of the gods. Her eyes, once filled with joy and light, were now clouded with sorrow, for she knew the kingdom was on the brink of total annihilation. Instead of the groove, she fell into a deep trance, her mind drifting into the realm of the gods. In that moment, the god of war, Ogun, appeared to her in a brilliant flash of light. He was a towering figure, very mighty, high, with skin like molten iron. His eyes were burning with the fire of battle, the god of war, Ogun. His presence was both terrifying and awe-inspiring, for he was the master of iron, the craftsman of weapons, and the protector of the oppressed. Olamide, overwhelmed by the God's presence, bowed before him. Great Ogun, we have suffered for too long. Our people are broken. Is there hope for us? Ogun's eyes softened with a divine compassion that seemed to transcend the brutality of war. Fear not, Olamide. I have chosen a champion, a humble farmer who will rise to lead your people to victory. His name is Ijapa. He is but a man, but his heart, he carries strength of thousands of warriors. With these words, Ogun vanished. Olamide calling, Ogun, Ogun. A loud, thunderous voice responded, Fimile jo, File. I will raise a army to fight for you people. Olamide, trembling with awe, gathered her strength and left the grove, determined to find Ijapa. After a while, she searched and searched the kingdom. Ijapa, a farmer from the outskirts of Awar, had already been touched by the gods. He was a simple man known for his hard work and kindness. In his neighbors, he has an unwavering belief in the gods. But it was on the night of Ogun's appearance to Olamide that Ijapa too had a vision. As he laid under the starry sky, exhausted after a long day at work, Ijapa heard the rhythmic pounding of a hammer from a distance. It was the sign of call on him. The Ogun had sent spirits to visit him and strengthen him, as though the head itself was beckoning on him to rise in his dream. Ogun stood before him, holding a mighty hammer in his hand, his voice looming like thunder. Ijapa, the god's voice called, Ijapa, you are the one I have chosen to lead the Awar people. You are the weapon forged by my hand, the flame that will burn away the tyranny of your enemies. Take up your destiny, for the fate of your people lies in your hand. When Ijapa awoke, his heart was filled with fire that could burn the whole community, but could not be quenched. He knew his life had changed forever. He no longer would be a humble farmer. He had chosen to be over time. The gods had chosen him, and he has to answer to the call. The next morning, Ijapa set out for the sacred grove. He was determined to meet the high priestesses and seek guidance. As he walked through the dense forest, his thoughts were consumed by a vision that he had received. What did it mean? What was it meant to do? Upon reaching the grove, Ijapa was met by Olamide, who had already received the words of his divine calling because she had earlier met with Ogun after consultation. Her eyes sparkled with recognition as she greeted him with a bow. You are the one. You are the one. Kabiyesi o, she said, her voice filled with reverence. The God have chosen you. Ogun has spoken to me and to you. It is time for you to forge your weapon and your warriors. The oppression of Benin on us, the people of Awar, is too much. The weapon that will free us, the people of Awar, from these chains of the Benin kingdom. And so Ijapa embarked on a journey that would change the course of history. Olamide was by his side to guide him through. Olamide, guided by wisdom, ventured into the heart and sacred forest where the Ogun lay hidden weapons. For days, he worked tirelessly mining the iron of the sacred hills, each strike of his hammer resonating with the power of the gods himself. As Ijapa walked, the spirit of the land seemed to come alive. The trees were whispering, and the wind and the birds were all awakened with trembles and anticipation. With every blow, the sword took shape. They were making a weapon unlike any other. The blade was sharp and flawless, forged with the divine energy of Ogun's own essence. It glowed with a faint, fiery light, a testament to the power that has been imbibed in it. When the sword was complete, Ijapa stood back and marveled at the weapon in his hand and the incredible power it feels. It was more than just a tool of war. It was a symbol of hope, a beacon that will guide the Awar people to freedom. The Awar people has been oppressed over time. Their harvest, farmland taken, their women taken, their children taken as slaves by the Benin kingdom. Olamide, who had watched in awe as Ijapa walked, nodded solemnly, "This is no ordinary weapon, Ijapa. This is the weapon of the gods. You must now lead the people of Awar into battle against the Benin people. For only through your strength and courage will Awar be free." Kabiyesi o. With the divine sword in his hand, Ijapa returned to his village, where the Awar warriors awaited his command. The people gathered with their hearts filled with a renewed sense of hope. The time for suffering is over. The time to take all our harvest and women is over. The Awar people rise again, and Ijapa will lead them. But the journey ahead will not be easy. The voices of Benin were vast and powerful. The king, Ozolua, was a ruthless leader. Yet, Ijapa, with the sword of Ogun in his hand, had the blessings of the gods at his back. And he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. For it was better to die honorably, as the Awar people were tired of the oppression from the Benin kingdom. The rise of Ijapa had begun, and the gods had shown him the path to victory. This was no longer a mere fight for survival. This was a battle for justice, a fight for the freedom of an entire kingdom. Awar's story was about to change, and Ijapa was destined to be the hero that will restore its glory. The rise of Ijapa. The days following the divine revelation were filled with an energy that had not been felt in Awar for many years. A glimmer of hope began to spread like wildfire through the kingdom. The once oppressed people of Awar, weary and broken, began to rally around Ijapa. News of his divine calling and power emerges like wildfire spread quickly across the kingdom. And those who had once covered in fear now stood tall, and the other farmers and merchandise rose to fight alongside Ijapa. It was as though the very earth beneath their feet had risen to meet them, and it came with courage to face their oppressors. Ijapa, though very humble by nature but strong, and as a farmer, felt the weight of destiny of the Awar people upon his shoulders. He knew that this would not be no ordinary battle. This was a war that would decide the fate of Awar and his people. As the leader of this resistance, he gathered the Awar warriors and farmers, converted them. All of them were eager to follow him into battle. His divine sword, which glowed with the power of Ogun, was a symbol of their unity and strength. The Awar warriors, though few in number compared to the vast army of Benin, were determined to fight for their freedom. Each man and woman stood with Ijapa, carried a fire in their heart, a fire that could not be extinguished by the might of Benin. They were not just fighting for their lives, but for their ancestors, their culture, their farmland, their future, and the future of their unborn children. For the first battle came swiftly as King Ezuolua, aware of Ijapa's rise, sent his forces to crush the Awar people. Awar rebellion, before it could gather momentum, had been squandered by the Benin army. The Benin army, led by the seasoned general, descended upon the Awar with great fury, confident that the small kingdom would easily fall to their superior forces. But they underestimated the spirit of the Awar people, and more importantly, they underestimated Ijapa. The Awar warriors, armed with simple weapons and fueled by the power of divine sword, fought with a ferocity that stunned the Benin soldiers. The sound of battle rang through the air as the clash of metals echoed across the land. Ijapa, wielding the sword of Ogun in the air, powerful and mighty, with skill and precision, cut through every enemy ranks, killing a greater number of the Benin soldiers at war, as though they were mere mates. The divine weapon of Ogun, imbibed with strength of the gods, gave Ijapa so much power and courage. The warriors of Benin, though trained and well-equipped, found themselves faltering and falling to the sword of Ijapa. Such fierce resistance from the Awar people, the Awar soldiers, led by Ijapa's unyielding courage, fought with an intensity that seemed to draw strength from every part of the head itself. The Benin soldiers used to rape women, take their children and young women and their farm produce. Now they are being slaughtered and slain in the battlefield. The people of Awar began to gain more courage as they were killing the Benin soldiers and armies. In the midst of the chaos, Ijapa faced the Benin general, a towering warrior known for his brutal tactics. They two clashed in a duel that was both fierce and poetic. The Benin general swung his massive sword, hoping to crush the farmer turned warrior. But Ijapa parried with ease and skillful moves, with divine swindling, guided by the gods. His divine sword cutting through the air with a deadly grace. Each strike was deliberate, a reflection of the divine that flowed through him. Finally, a swift and precise movement. Ijapa disarmed the general, sending his sword flying across the battlefield. The general, torn by the speed and power of Ijapa, dropped to his knees in defeat. Ijapa slaughtered him. Blood spilled. Ijapa by the general of the Benin army. The Awar warriors, seeing their leader's victory, surged forward and renewed vigor, and the Benin forces, unable to recover from the shock of their general fall, began to retreat, and they ran. The battle, though fought hard, ended in a resounding victory for the Awar people. The Benin army was forced to withdraw, leaving behind the bodies of their fallen soldiers. The soldiers were killed. Some were recovered as slaves. Ijapa, his sword still glowing with divine energy, stood tall at the head of his people. The Awar warriors, exhausted, with victorious cheers, celebrated their spirit lifted by triumph and what they had achieved. But Ijapa knew that this victory was only the beginning. King Ozuolua would not simply accept defeat. He would come again with a vengeance. The Benin king was not to be easily tested and defeated. And Ijapa understood that the struggle for Awar's freedom would be a long and difficult one. The next few months, Ijapa and his warriors prepared for the inevitable counterback. They trained in the art of warfare, honed their skills with divine sword, and fortified the kingdom defenses. The Awar people, inspired by their leader, worked together to rebuild what had been destroyed by the Benin forces. Their harvests were replanted, their crops and farmland were reclaimed. Most of their soldiers that were wounded were treated, the markets were reopened, and the festivals of Awar began again. Once again, Awar kingdom was filled with music, dance. The women that were captured to Benin kingdom were retrieved. Despite the growing strength of the Awar, King Ozuolua, driven by his pride and thirst for power, was relentless. He gathered an even larger army, with one that dwarfed Awar's forces, and marched towards the kingdom with an army of thousands. His forces were all equipped, and he had made alliance with other neighboring kingdoms, hoping to crush Awar once and for all. The Great Battle. The second battle was set to take place on the plains outside the Awar kingdom, a vast expanse where the two armies will meet in a final showdown. Ijapa, though confident in the power of the gods bestowed on his sword, knew that the odds were stacked against him and the Awar people. The Awar warriors, though brave and determined, were merely farmers that were turned to soldiers. They were overturned by the Benin forces. The kingdom of Awar, with its rich cultural and proud history, now stood at the verge of being exterminated and destroyed. As the two armies faced each other on battlefield, Ijapa stood at the front of his forces, his divine sword raised high. The Awar warriors, though neighbors, stood firm, with their hearts filled with hope and determination, and the gods had already shown them the path to victory once before, so they believed that they can do it again. The battle began with a deafening roar as the two armies collided, the armies of the Awar people and the Benin kingdom. The sound of clashing swords, the cries of warriors, and the screams of the wounded filled the air. Ijapa, with his divine sword in hand, led the charge, cutting through the Benin forces with unparalleled skill. His strikes were like lightning, swift and deadly, leaving room for no mercy. King Ozuolua, watching from the rear of his army, saw his soldiers falling before Ijapa's might. Angered, he ordered his elite warriors to confront the Awar leader in an attempt to end the battle swiftly. The Benin king believed that if Ijapa fell, the spirit of the Awar people would break. The two armies clashed again, but this time the stakes were higher. Ijapa, with his divine sword shining like a beacon of hope, fought with every ounce of strength in him. Every time he flings his sword, there will be thunder rumbling. He faced King Ozuolua on the battlefield, their eyes locking with a fury that only those destined for greatness could understand. The battle was fierce, deadly, bloody. Cries, bleeding, wounds were filled all over the air. But in the end, Ijapa's strength, guided by the gods, Ogun, proved superior. With a final mighty strike, Ijapa defeated King Ozuolua, breaking the power of Benin and its warriors, and restoring freedom to the Awar kingdom. The Awar warriors, watching in hope, surged forward to claim their victory, and the Benin forces leaders were demoralized, war forced to retreat. They all retreated. With the fall of King Ozuolua, the kingdom of Awar was finally free. The Awar people, once oppressed and broken, now stood tall, with their spirit soaring high. Ijapa, the humble farmer turned a godlike warrior, had fulfilled his divine destiny. The gods had chosen him, Ogun had appeared to him, and Olamide. And through his courage, the kingdom of Awar was reborn. The people of Awar celebrated their freedom with a grand festival honoring the gods Ogun, who had granted them victory, the god of war, and the hero who had led them into it, Ijapa. Ijapa, the humble soldier, had fulfilled his destiny and his obligation to the Awar people, mandated by the god of war, Ogun. Ijapa, the humble farmer, though humble in victory, was hailed as a legend. His name forever etched in the history of the Awar kingdom. The other Awar soldiers were compensated with farmland, their wives and children taken as captives to the Benin kingdom were recovered and retrieved to their homeland, the Awar kingdom. And so on, Awar thrived once again, its people living in peace, harmony, and prosperity. They were ever grateful for the warrior chosen by the gods. Olamide came back, and she survived the war. The rise of Ijapa had marked the dawn of a new era, one where the spirit of the Awar kingdom and its people would never be broken again.